Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, so welcome. We have the Glass Media team here. So Daniel and Ilan. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us what Glass Media is all about and how you guys got the idea for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us on, Dan. So my name's Daniel Black, founder and CEO of Glass Media. This is my co-founder, Ilan Kane, our COO. We started the company almost 10 years ago here in Dallas, Texas. Our original kind of inspiration was we kind of wanted to solve the lack of digital storefronts. Most retailers were using paper posters to communicate with the outside world. And for us, we really felt that bridging the gap between online and physical commerce was important and also kind of trending. And we were going that way with, smartphone devices, right? And tablets and just web in general. Started doing a lot of projection on glass, expanded into ultra high brightness displays. And then fast forward to today, we sit in our headquarters in Dallas. We have 150,000 square feet of manufacturing and fab space. So we really, today's focus on bespoke visual solutions and custom digital signage. We're really that design firm that specializes in design, engineering, and fabrication. And we love just making custom product, helping our customers think outside the box and tailoring something that meets their needs.
That's awesome. I guess before Zing joined you guys to work with you guys, what projects were you working on and trying to solve at that point?
Yeah, so of course, when you think about digital signage, the industry has matured quite a bit. So historically, it was more like, let's throw content on a flash drive, right? Or an SD card. Fast forward to today, having a cloud-based content management system is one part. Then you get into the sensor suites of analytics, right? Engagement analytics. Could be gesture with cameras, accelerometers, push buttons, right? We have customers that bring us really interesting use cases. Even a newer phenomenon is lift and learn, right? So being able to lift up a product, and as you touch that product, you have a one-to-one experience with the digital display behind it. Before you guys came into the picture, we had to turn down a lot of projects, right? Because we would say, hey, we can only really handle X, Y, Z. Or we'd force our client to bring in a few different parties. And clients hate nothing more than dealing with multiple, suppliers or vendors at the same time. So historically, like I said, it was either there were too many cooks in the kitchen and, we could get something across the finish line, but there was a lot of bureaucracy and red tape, a lot of change orders, right? Scope creep was all over the place. Fast forward today, we're working with you guys. Not only are we taking on all those different projects, but you guys are basically an extension of our team, and we're able to win and offer our clients a lot of things that we couldn't do before.
Oh, great. That's awesome. I guess when you first spoke to Dan Melnick, I know you spoke to him 6 months ago, I think at a Chabad house, if I remember correctly. I guess what led you guys to working with us, with me, Qasim, Dan, and our team?
When you think about working with developers, whether it's onshore, nearshore, or offshore, I think the big problem is it's kind of like buying something cheap on Alibaba, right? Or Temu. You have no idea what you're going to get. And so for Ilan and I, the trust factor is a big thing, right? We want to work with an outside agency, right? Development firm, whatever you want to call it, or refer to yourselves as, with someone we can trust. So I've known Dan for a little bit of time, very credible, very trustworthy individual. I think that's what Ilan and I needed to kind of break the ice was, hey, we're not just joining forces with someone. We don't know their clients. We don't know them personally. I think that helped us tremendously. And you guys were great too. In addition to Dan, we were in New York for a show earlier this year. And we're like, hey, Effie, let's meet up. I think that's really important to be able to, Zoom is one thing, but face to a name, right, is also very helpful.
All right. So what were the good things that drive your development and growth in your business?
One of the big things working with y'all, you guys have done a tremendous job simplifying kind of the roadmap of what we need to do with our customers, right? So if we can't showcase or simplify the timeline of a project or the challenges or the different boxes we need to check in what order, we have a hard time either selling something across the finish line or there's just a lot of roadblocks across kind of the product development pipeline, right, so to speak. So I think that's a really big thing for us is you guys have made it easy for us to present those timelines, those costs, kind of those project or holistic or comprehensive project briefs to our customers. And that's ultimately what they're they're looking for, right? So we've eliminated a lot of back and forth. We don't need you guys in all of these calls, right? You delivered us the materials we've asked for that make it very easy for someone in our sales organization to go basically pitch or present, educate the client on kind of what's needed moving forward.
For sure. So I guess like more high level, what improved about your business getting us involved and working with you?
Yes, I think going back to what we talked about earlier, we used to turn down a lot of projects, or we'd only get a portion of the project, right? You know, we can handle A and B, but not C and D. I think the beautiful thing with you guys, right, is we're now able to say yes to projects we would have to pass on, or even from a revenue or control perspective, we're not working with other third-party suppliers and vendors, right? Now we're saying we can do A, B, C, and D. That's been huge for our team because as this industry gets more complicated, we get more retail stakeholders from business intelligence, visual merchandising, store design, IT that all want to get involved. You guys have really helped us streamline the communications across all those different siloed departments to make it, we're really acting as one.
That's awesome. I guess moving forward, I mean, it's been really great working as a partner together so far. How do you see the value of us working together the next 12 months from now?
Yeah, so I think with any partnership, there's obviously a learning curve, right? And kind of like a honeymoon phase. I think what's exciting about working with you guys is we're continually challenging ourselves to look from with outside in and figure out how to better optimize processes collectively, right? So there were never any big hiccups from the beginning, right? You guys are extremely streamlined, very organized, but at the same time, now that we have so many projects with you guys under our belt, there's very little learning curve, right? We already know if we're come to Dan or Qasim or UFE with a project, we already have a good idea on how long it's going to take to pull together a project brief and a timeline and a project estimate, right? So now that gives our sales organization the confidence to not only say yes to projects, but also say, I can get back to you in a week or 2 weeks, right? Or 3 weeks, whatever it ends up being. So that's the big thing is as we mature together and we get more hours under our belt, more projects under our belt, this all becomes much smoother.
All right. So as in your project, there were some overseas developers as well. So how do you feel about their communication and collaboration with you?
Yeah, so definitely has not been an issue. It's definitely a concern in the early days, right? But I think that's a big thing about y'all's company too. I mean, Qasim, you've been on plenty of calls with us, even customer facing, right? Effie and Dan have done the same. So that's a really good part too, is I know I'll let Ilan speak to kind of working with your team on the international level, but just having Dan and Effie, whether it needs to jump on a customer call or we can just talk to them as well. It's made it great, right? Whether there's a language barrier, whether there's a time zone issue, which there hasn't been for us.
Yeah, I mean, from an operational perspective, I think the biggest thing for us is we all adapted to everybody's workflows. So obviously we use Slack as a platform we use to communicate, being able to communicate back and forth, especially for our developers and our teams here, as well as your teams remotely. It helps us streamline communication, streamline getting information, especially any type of Q&A that helps go back and forth, especially with the team locally. So
yeah, and I think to add on that, we also have in-house engineers, right, that are interfacing with you guys on a weekly basis. That's really helped us as well, kind of expedite this process. Is, you know, we have people working with you guys, especially on some of the more complicated projects we're getting into where we're actually doing like middleware and firmware and interfacing with hardware, right? Or custom sensors. Works really well for us to, you know, basically have a smaller in-house team that now is a much larger organization, right? And the nice thing is we can scale up and down with you guys, which is phenomenal, right? So we don't have to say no to projects or say, hey, we're backed up in this queue. We can get to this, but it's going to be 3 months, right? If we get 10 great projects at the same time, we know we can throw them all to you guys and we can, you know, parallel path them all simultaneously.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess just to wrap, like how likely are you to recommend Zing for software development needs of other companies?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys were Uber Eats, I'd give you a 5-star for sure. I think, you know, Ilan and I both, we're happy to be a testimonial for Zing. I'm happy to talk to customers. I think, you know, for Ilan and I being serial entrepreneurs, we know how hard it is to start a company. We know how hard it is to get into hardware, software, even more complicated things like custom design builds. And so any entrepreneur, any company that's faced the challenges we did historically, we're happy to walk them through. And also it's a success story for us. We've won a ton of big projects. We've actually patented some stuff we're working with you guys on. And so you guys have been a tremendous partner. And if I can help a non-competitor do the same thing, I'm more than happy to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that's all we have